that boy. Go shoot that damn bull. I'm not gonna shoot that bull. Matt.
I'm Steve Rinella from MeatEater, and these are some of my top moose hunting moments of all time. Moose hunting tends to be a long game. You'll find if you ever book a moose hunt with a guide, you'll find they want to book hunts that are like 10 or more days long, maybe 14 days long. It takes a long time to get a moose, especially if you're calling. It just takes a long time to bring bulls in. So you always need to pad your days and make sure you're out there for the long haul and that you're ready for days without action. Moose hunting can get really frustrating, especially in the really far north. Like this episode, we're north of the Brooks Range, okay? So we're on sort of the Arctic slope going out to the Arctic Ocean. There's not a lot of moose up in an area like this. It's very low density. You have to be prepared going into moose hunting in Alaska and other places too. You have to be prepared for not just a day, but days to go by where you don't lay eyes on a moose. I have spent a lot of days moose hunting where you hunt 12 hours, never lay eyes on a moose. I'm talking no cows, no calves, no nothing. It's just part of the game. What winds up being like so spectacular about the long waits is when you see the paddles coming. We'll always liken it to like all of a sudden, you're staring out at all this blueberry and spruce and tundra, and all of a sudden it's like someone's holding up a sheet of plywood out there. And that always, when you're calling too, that's always the first thing you see. And if you look at this bull here that we got coming in, you see like how well those paddles stand out. Those big moose paddles are probably helpful to channel noise into the bull's ear, right? Because it's low density, huge areas, they got to be able to hear a cow calling. I always wonder if that moose paddle doesn't assist in hearing. And it has to be like a visual display too, where other moose see those paddles from far off. It is the best feeling in the world to see those paddles coming through the brush. Anytime I will sit out on the tundra or out in the bog, I'll sit there 8 days, 9 days to get one glimpse of a big set of those paddles coming across, those big white glowing paddles. Man, I love it.
Maybe grunt something. Hold on. Stop him. Oh!
That was a hit. Hit him again, hit him again, hit him again.
He's down. Holy cow.
You'll see that Brant shoots twice, which is pretty common for moose. And a peculiar thing about moose, when they get hit, they don't often really respond in a very dramatic way to getting hit. If you hit a whitetail, it's like that sucker's already running before you can even like register the fact that you pulled the trigger. Like they're just souped up. They're very tense, and they tend to just take off when you shoot. A moose tends to just kind of like not really respond in a dramatic way to shooting. And so often you can get 2 shots in on a moose before it really does anything.
Hit him again, hit him again, hit him again.
And the bunch of moose hunting I've done over the years, and I've carried a lot of other people's moose and been in on a lot of moose kills. I would hate to have to really do a long track job on moose through the kind of country they hang in, because it would be very difficult blood trailing. So I hope that never happens. On this hunt here, I'm hunting with my dear friend Giannis and his dad, Papa Giannis. And you can see this bull coming up, and this bull's coming up probably from the valley floor. And you can't really appreciate it, but that bull has probably traveled a long way up that hill, up into the open. When you're out in this country where you get a lot of spruce and tundra, the bulls really like to stick to the spruce. A lot of times when you first catch a glimpse of paddles, like a bull's paddles looking at you from off in the distance if you're calling or whatever, you'll see his paddles and you realize like he's out in the timber. And they just stick to it. I don't know, they're so big, it's hard to picture why they feel the need to have that protection, but they want some overhead protection. When I talk to guys that do a lot more moose hunting than me, they'll oftentimes bring up this idea that they'll actually call a bull, and they'll call that bull until they get it all the way up on the landing strip. Or they'll get a bull working and they'll call the bull, and they'll call the bull all the way to their boat before they shoot it. And that takes like a lot of confidence that you're gonna pull it off, and a lot of patience, because it could take a long time to bring a moose a little bit of a distance. I've never done it, but in this case, you can see the way this bull's coming, he's already out of the spruce. He's like up in the knee-high brush. You can't really tell from the positioning, but Giannis's dad is not terribly far down from the airstrip.
All right, we'll give him plenty of time. And we're gonna let him come up as far as he wants. Oh man. Okay. I can't see him. Whoa, there he is. Come on, big guy. Come on. Keep coming. There we go. Yeah, baby.
Oh yeah. Holy moly. Nice. Very nice. Oh my gosh, you don't realize how big they are.
You could have, if you were willing to risk losing it or having it smell you or something, you could have called that up. And like I said, I've talked to guys that have called them up and shot them on the airstrip. I just don't have that kind of patience, man. I would be more comfortable like getting them when you can get them, and then needing to deal with that big carcass. And that brings up a really important part about moose hunting, is you'll tend to find it, I'm sure there are a lot of solo moose hunters out there. I don't know many of them. Like, moose hunting is almost out of necessity a group activity because they're so hard to move. It takes to move a mature bull, it takes 7 or more man trips to move a boned out moose and to move its head. So if you go out and you gotta go, like the first I've ever carried one, we carried one 3 miles one time. So that's 7 man trips, 3 miles, 6 mile round trip. That's brutal on a person. My brother, who lives up in Alaska, they do a lot of moose hunting, and his group of guys that he moose hunts with, when they go out, they come up with like an agreement where, whether it's a landing strip or a river or whatever, they'll agree, hey, when everybody's out, here's how far from the water you're allowed to kill a bull if you want us to help you pack it. And they'll agree, like a mile is max. If you go over a mile, that's your responsibility to get it. No one does that because no one wants to do it by themselves. But it's a way of enforcing the distance. I've many times looked at bulls and fantasized about going after them, 5, 6 miles away. And you just realize, like, you can't. Like, you'd have no way, especially across that boggy tundra and across the muskeg, you'd have no way of ever getting that meat recovered and getting it back to a boat or back to a landing strip before it went bad. It's just too hard. So it limits the size of the animal, limits you in terms of how much distance you can travel in pursuit of one. And it limits like how many people you need around. 3 guys, it makes it down to like 2 or 3 trips. 1 guy, it's a lot of trips, and it's painful to carry them suckers around. Here's a moose float trip, and I've done a couple, I think this might have been the 2nd moose float trip I've been on. The first time I went on a moose float trip, we had great luck. We did a moose float trip one time in Alaska. I don't remember how many, we had like 5 or 6 guys, we killed 3 bulls. We couldn't have killed any more because we couldn't have floated them out. Like, it was a great hunt. Here's an unsuccessful moose float. Here's the positive about doing a moose float. When you're doing a moose float, you're covering a bunch of river miles, right? Maybe you do 20 miles, 40 miles, whatever it is. So you get to see all these new places. You're cruising along, you can probably go fishing, that's fun. You have a greater likelihood of seeing bears because usually you're hunting moose in September and there's still some salmon around. You get to camp in a new spot every night because you're making your way. And you're just seeing new stuff, and it's just more entertaining. The problem with a moose float is you have X miles to cover. and you have X number of days to do it. So you always feel compelled, like out of necessity, to keep bumping along, right? If you have, let's say you're on a 10-day moose float and you're gonna go 60 miles, you gotta cover 6 miles a day. So if you get to a spot you like and you decide to skip a day's travel, all of a sudden there's like a 12-mile day, right? If you skip another day and then all of a sudden you bump it up and you got like an 18-mile day ahead of you. So you always feel like you need to every day put a little mileage on during the midday period, which means you can't play the long game at any one particular spot. And the long game is calling and giving it days to play out. Like if you go to a single spot and you call and call and call, it's possible. And I've talked to a lot of guys that have done a lot of moose hunting and moose guiding, and they back me up on this. It's possible that it might take a moose days to come in. That moose might hear you miles away. It might hear you a couple miles away and take days to arrive at where you're at. They hear it, it's in their head, they mill around, they don't do anything fast. I've in fact watched them, I've watched them take hours to cover 100 yards. So one of the advantages of being in a spot is like distant moose hear it and they don't go running over like a bull elk, but they hear it and they're like, yeah, at some point, I'm gonna head over there and find that cow. So in river hunting, like you're jumping along, calling in new spots, and you're kind of reliant on the fact that you're gonna hit a hot bull that's gonna come right in. You get the feeling that that me and Buck would leave a spot and we'd go down river, and then like 6 hours later, a bull would come through. It just kind of had that feeling to it. So it was a little bit frustrating. Now that I've had a chance to do different kinds of moose hunts, I'm pretty committed to doing the 10-day mega sit on a moose hunt. It's less fun, but I feel that it's a different game. If I was gonna take my kids out, we'd do the river because they'd be more entertaining, they could catch fish and stuff. But if it's just really like trying to get like a good bull, I'd rather put my time in one spot and just play that slow calling game. This here was one of the more exciting moose moments I've ever had in my life, because here I am hunting with Clay, 10 days into the hunt. Remember I was talking about that moose hunts take time. We hunted the last 10 days of the season. This is the last hour of the last day of the season. There's no option to hunt later because the season's closing. And we finally, in this moment, we call in multiple bulls. We were aware of a bull down here, a mile down that way. We were aware of a bull a mile over that way. And we get in this crazy situation where both these bulls, he come like this, he come like this, and both the bulls got to us at the same time. It was the most exciting thing. You're like, we're in there in thick brush, so we're in real tight. You can hear them breathing, you can hear them grunting, you can hear them slashing brush. It was fantastic.
Another bull. That's the big one. Where is he? Oh, I hear him grunting. Oh! He's coming, Steve. Hey, can I get behind that tree right there? If I get up there, I'll be able to see him. But, no. You get up there. Go shoot that damn bull. I'm not gonna shoot that bull. Oh! 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 Matt!
I got him. Oh, that's a nice bull.
Holy cow! Oh my gosh! Holy cow!
So it was so fun. I like to watch this little clip now and then just to, it's one of the cool things about getting to film hunts is you can kind of relive them. The last time I watched it, something occurred to me that had never occurred to me before, and I'm surprised no one had commented on it in my friend group. First, this little bull comes out, and then you see this big bull coming, and it never occurred to me that Clay, being an Arkansas whitetail hunter that he is, Clay does a meh to stop it. Meh. Which is so funny because that's like the sort of like classic noise that you make at a whitetail buck to try to get a whitetail buck to stop. And it's funny that he resorted to, rather than going like, "Urgh," which is a bull noise, to stop a bull, he gives it the "meh," like little whitetail sound, which is just like an ingrained thing for him, but it kind of cracked me up. I never noticed that before. This bull would have been one that would be like, it would have been like almost kind of disastrous for a single person to try to move that moose. It would have been very, very hard. Possible, but hard on someone physically. And then you might have run into some issues with the warmth and the potential for some meat spoilage. And another thing you'd run into is that there's a lot of bears in this area and they're very aggressive about getting on those carcasses. So if you were like by yourself and this turned into a 3-day pack out, it could have been sketchy. Filming hunts, we have our guys with us, our camera guys and our crew, and the guys we use are usually pretty gung-ho and they're game about packing. So knowing that like there's me and Clay, then a few other people that we're with that are filming, makes us much more cocky about how far we'll go to kill a moose. So it's like when you watch it and you're just watching these 2 hunters, it might be that, man, for 2 guys to kill a bull a mile from camp, that's pretty rugged. But it's kind of like deceptive because it's actually, we got 5 packers that are gonna go down and get that bull. So it's like 2 people on camera, but we got a game packing crew of 5 or 6, which really extends the range out that we're able to go after a moose. Otherwise, we would have had to try to call that bull up the hill more, and how the limited amount of time we had, I don't know that we would have ever gotten that bull in. So that really getting him was thanks to the fact that we had enough people that we could really go and just get on that bull and go down that hill and meet it. No one would be able to get it out to the airstrip. Okay, and lastly, this isn't my most recent moose hunt, this is the most recent moose I got. Prior to this, I had gotten some small bulls. It became something of a joke, at least to me and to a couple of my friends, that I had over the years carried a lot of nice bulls. When I say nice bulls, I mean bulls that are like, in Alaska, in many units, bulls have to be 50 inches tip to tip, and they have to have, depending on where you're at, 3 or 4 brow tines on one side and the front. I'd carried a lot of bulls like that over the years, but I never got a bull like that. And it just became like, I was just resigned myself to the fact that I was gonna carry other people's bulls around. But I did that enough and toted enough bulls over the years to the point where I finally got into a situation to really get like just a big, beautiful bull.
I got a shot right now, but it's not a good broadside. I think that first one was in the boiler room.
Golly, that's a big old moose.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to hit him again. No, he's down. Good job, buddy. Good job, man. Hey, Seth, good spot, dude.
If you ever make your way up to Bozeman, Montana, we have a store in Bozeman, and when you walk in the door, and that bull is hanging above the cash register, that's where that bull's hanging there, so drop by and check it out.